At 35,000 feet, Captain Derek Holloway thought he owned the sky. By the time Flight 447 touched down in Miami, his 23-year career was destroyed, captured in 4K video by passengers who'd watched him humiliate a 16-year-old girl whose father controlled his entire future. If you believe stories like this deserve to be told, hit subscribe so stories like this don't get buried. The scene was Gate C-47 at Chicago O'Hare International Airport, Terminal 3. The 6:15 p.m. departure to Miami had just started boarding, and that's when Jasmine Williams, 16 years old with box braids and a Northwestern University hoodie, walked down the jetway with her grandmother, 72-year-old Dorothy Williams, who moved slowly with a cane carved from African blackwood. They didn't look like first-class passengers. At least that's what Captain Derek Holloway decided in the 30 seconds it took him to emerge from the cockpit for his pre-flight cabin walkthrough. He'd been flying the Chicago-Miami route for 11 years. He knew his first-class passengers, corporate executives, wealthy retirees, the occasional celebrity, not teenagers in hoodies, not elderly black women who needed help stowing their carry-ons. "Excuse me." Holloway's voice carried that particular tenor of authority, friendly on the surface, steel underneath. "I think there's been a mistake with your seating." Jasmine looked up from helping her grandmother settle into seat 2A. "No mistake. These are our seats. Let me see your boarding passes." Dorothy's hand touched Jasmine's arm, a small gesture, one Jasmine knew well. The same touch her grandmother had given her countless times before. "Be calm, be dignified, we've survived worse." Jasmine pulled out her phone, showing the mobile boarding passes. "First class. Seats 2A and 2B paid in full." Holloway barely glanced at the screen. "Those must be fraudulent. I'm going to need you both to deplane while we sort this out with the gate agent." "They're not fraudulent." Jasmine's voice was steady, measured, the voice her father had taught her to use when the world showed its teeth. "We bought these seats. We have every right to be here. I'm the captain of this aircraft, and I'm telling you there's an issue with your tickets." Behind them, passengers were backing up in the jetway. First class was only 8 seats, but already the witnesses were gathering. A businessman in a Tom Ford suit filming on his phone, a woman with a Hermes bag watching silently, a young couple exchanging uncomfortable glances but saying nothing. Holloway's smile never wavered. "I'm sure this is just a misunderstanding, but until we verify your purchase, I can't allow you to remain in first class. Company policy." "Whose policy?" Jasmine asked. "Sky Elite Airways policy. Now, I've been polite, but I need you to gather your things in." "We're not moving." Dorothy's voice was quiet, firm, the voice of a woman who'd sat at lunch counters in 1963 when being polite could get you killed. "These are our seats. We paid for these seats. We're staying in these seats." Holloway's expression shifted. The friendly mask slipped, just for a moment, revealing something colder underneath. "Ma'am, I don't want to have to call security." "Then don't," Jasmine said. But he already was. Holloway stepped back into the galley, pulling out his phone. "Yeah, this is Captain Holloway on Flight 447, Gate C-47. I need security at the aircraft door. 2 passengers refusing to comply with crew member instructions. Yes, first class. Right, I'll wait." The thing about public humiliation is how it layers. First comes the accusation, then the audience, then the authority figures who should protect you but don't. Flight attendant Monica Chen appeared from the forward galley, all professional concern. "Is everything okay, Captain? These passengers are claiming to have first-class tickets, but something's not adding up. I've called security to sort it out." Monica looked at Jasmine and Dorothy. Her eyes flickered, recognition of the situation, calculation of her own position, decision to protect herself. "If the captain has concerns about ticketing irregularities, we do need to verify before takeoff." "There are no irregularities," Jasmine said, her voice harder now. Show me the policy that says you can remove paying passengers based on a feeling that our tickets don't look right. Holloway's jaw tightened. Young lady, I've been flying for 23 years. I think I know when something's off. What's off that we're black? The word hung in the air. The businessman with the Tom Ford suit adjusted his filming angle. The woman with the Hermes bag studied her phone screen with intense focus. The young couple stared at the seat back in front of them. I'm going to pretend you didn't just accuse me of that, Holloway said, his voice dropping to something dangerous. This has nothing to do with race and everything to do with verified ticketing procedures. Then verify them, Dorothy said quietly. Pull up our reservation, check our confirmation numbers, see who purchased these tickets. Security will handle that. Why not handle it now? Jasmine pulled up her email. Reservation confirmation, purchased 3 weeks ago. Credit card ending in 4782. Account name, Williams Family Trust. Holloway didn't look at the email. Anyone can fake a confirmation email. Jesus Christ, someone muttered from economy class, where passengers were now standing in the aisle to see what was happening. More phones out, more recording. Holloway was building his own archive of evidence, moment by moment. Security arrived. 2 officers in blue blazers, looking weary before they even understood the situation. The older one, Officer James Martinez, had seen this movie before. The younger one, Officer Chris Peterson, was already reaching for his radio. What's the issue, Captain? Martinez asked. Suspected ticket fraud. These 2 are refusing to deplane for verification. Martinez looked at Jasmine and Dorothy. Looked at their carry-ons, a leather weekend bag that cost more than his monthly salary, a designer purse his wife had pointed out in a Bloomingdale's window. Looked at their calm faces, their first-class seats, their absolute certainty that they belonged exactly where they were. He'd learned to read these situations. 20 years in airport security taught you things, but protocol was protocol. Can I see your boarding passes, please? Jasmine showed him. Mobile passes on her phone, first class, paid, confirmed. These look legitimate to me, Captain. I want them verified at the gate. Run their IDs, check the credit card against our system, confirm the purchase. Martinez looked at Holloway. Sir, that's going to delay the flight. I'm aware. I'm also responsible for the security and integrity of this aircraft. Translation. I'm the captain and what I say goes. Ma'am. Martinez addressed Dorothy with the kind of exhausted courtesy that comes from knowing you're about to do something wrong because someone with more power has ordered it. Would you mind stepping off the aircraft while we verify your tickets at the gate? It'll just take a few minutes. No, Dorothy said. We would mind. We've done nothing wrong. Our tickets are valid. We're staying in our seats. Holloway stepped forward, close enough that Dorothy had to tilt her head back to look at him, close enough to intimidate. You're refusing a direct instruction from the flight crew. That's a federal offense. You're going to be banned from this airline and possibly face charges. Jasmine stood up. Step back from my grandmother. Or what? Holloway's smile was back, colder now, crueler. You going to call your lawyer, have Daddy's company file a complaint? I've heard it all before, sweetheart. And here's what happens. You both get escorted off, you miss your flight, and you learn that actions have consequences. This was his mistake. The first of several. The one that would look worst in the videos that were already uploading to Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. The patronizing sweetheart. The assumption about Daddy's company delivered with such contempt. The threat disguised as education. What Holloway didn't know, what Martinez didn't know, what Monica Chen didn't know, what none of the filming passengers knew, was that Jasmine's father wasn't just any executive. Marcus Williams wasn't just wealthy. He was the single largest private shareholder of Sky Elite Airways. 18 months earlier, Marcus had acquired a 23% stake in the airline during its restructuring. $847 million in preferred shares that gave him 3 seats on the board of directors and effective veto power over major personnel decisions, including, specifically, the hiring and firing of senior pilots. Holloway had been flying specifically to demonstrate the airline's commitment to passenger experience. His route had been featured in internal training videos. He'd been nominated for the Captain's Excellence Award 3 times. He found it wanting. This wasn't the first time Jasmine had been questioned about whether she belonged somewhere. At 11, she'd been stopped by security at her own middle school in Highland Park because she looked lost wandering the hallways. She was looking for the library. She'd attended that school for 3 years. At 13, she'd been followed through every aisle of a Neiman Marcus by a sales associate who kept asking if she needed help finding anything, while her white friends shopped unbothered. She'd been trying to buy her mother a birthday present with money she'd earned tutoring. At 14, she'd been pulled aside at a swim meet and asked to show her team credentials because officials didn't recognize her, despite her school's banner hanging 20 feet above the pool. She'd won 3 gold medals that day. Dorothy had seen worse. In 1961, she'd been 16, Jasmine's age, when she tried to order a Coke at a Woolworth's lunch counter in Birmingham. The waitress had told her they didn't serve her kind. Dorothy had sat there for 4 hours until the police dragged her out. She still had the scar on her left wrist where the handcuffs had cut her skin. In 1968, she'd watched her brother, Marcus's grandfather, get passed over for a promotion he'd earned at Ford Motor Company. The job went to a white man with half his experience. Her brother had designed the fuel injection system that saved the company millions. They gave him a plaque. The white man got the corner office. In 1987, she'd been stopped by police while driving through Kenilworth, the suburb where she'd lived for 15 years. They'd asked her whose car she was driving. It was her car, a Mercedes she'd bought with money from her pharmacy, the first black-owned pharmacy in Lake County. They'd made her prove it. Title, registration, insurance, driver's license. Then they'd ticketed her for a broken taillight that wasn't broken. She'd learned something from each experience. Dignity wasn't about being allowed into spaces that tried to exclude you. Dignity was about knowing you belonged there regardless of who disagreed. "Ma'am," Martinez said again, his voice softer now, maybe recognizing something in Dorothy's eyes. "Please, just step off for a few minutes. Make this easy on everyone." "Easy on who?" Dorothy asked. "Easy on you, easy on him," she nodded toward Holloway. "When has anything been easy on us?" The question settled over the cabin like snow. The businessman in the Tom Ford suit lowered his phone slightly, then raised it again, still filming. The woman with the Hermes bag bit her lip. The young couple looked at each other, something passing between them. Maybe shame, maybe recognition, maybe just relief that it wasn't them. No one said anything. Jasmine felt it then. The weight of every witness who would watch this happen and do nothing. The passengers who'd go home tonight and tell their families about the situation on the plane, without mentioning that they'd seen a 16-year-old girl and her grandmother humiliated for having the audacity to sit in seats they'd paid for. Later, some of them would claim they'd thought about saying something. Later, some of them would insist they hadn't known the full context. Later, none of that would matter. "Jazz," Dorothy said quietly, using her granddaughter's nickname, "get your phone." Jasmine knew what that meant. She'd been taught what that meant. By her father, by her grandmother, by every black parent who'd ever had to explain to their child that the world might not be fair but documentation was power. She opened her phone's voice recorder. Started recording. "Captain Holloway," she said clearly, her voice carrying through the cabin, "I'm recording this interaction for our protection. You've accused us of ticket fraud without evidence. You've called security to remove us despite our tickets being valid. Can you explain, specifically, what policy we've violated?" Holloway's face flushed. You can't record me. I can. We're in a public space and you're a public-facing employee of a commercial airline. Illinois is a one-party consent state. I'm recording. This was his second mistake. Getting angry about being recorded instead of recognizing that his behavior needed to change if he didn't want it documented. Turn that off, or I'll have you arrested for interfering with a flight crew. Recording isn't interference, but threatening to arrest passengers for exercising their legal rights might be grounds for a civil rights lawsuit. Jasmine's voice never wavered. Her father had trained her well. 3 years of mock trial at Latin school, 2 summers interning at his corporate law firm, one father who'd made damn sure his daughter knew her rights. Listen, little girl. Don't call her that. Dorothy's voice cracked like a whip, not loud but absolute. Address my granddaughter with respect, or don't address her at all. Holloway turned to Martinez. Get them off my plane, now. Peterson, the younger security officer, stepped forward. His hand wasn't on his cuffs yet, but the threat was there. Ladies, you need to comply. We can do this the easy way. There is no easy way to be humiliated in public, Dorothy said. There's just the way where we protect our dignity and the way where we let you take it from us. We're choosing the first one. Then we're going to have to escort you off in restraints. Jasmine looked at her grandmother, 72 years old, a cane in her right hand, a lifetime of fighting battles just like this one carved into every line on her face. She'd marched with John Lewis. She'd registered voters in Mississippi when registration could get you killed. She'd built a business when banks wouldn't give black women loans. And now she was about to be handcuffed on an airplane, because a captain couldn't imagine that she belonged in first class. Jasmine made her decision. She pulled out her phone again, not the voice recorder this time, the contacts list. Found the name she needed. The one contact she'd been told to use only in emergencies. Her father had been explicit, only if it's serious, Jazz, only if there's no other choice. This qualified. She hit dial. 1 ring, 2 rings, 3. Jazz, what's wrong? Dad, her voice stayed steady, but everyone in first class could hear her now. The businessman stopped filming to lean closer. Monica Chen froze in the galley. Holloway's expression shifted, just slightly, as he began to realize that maybe, possibly, he'd miscalculated. We have a problem. Tell me. We're on flight 447. Chicago to Miami. Captain Holloway is trying to remove me and Grandma from first class. He says our tickets are fraudulent. Security is threatening to arrest us. Silence on the other end, the kind of silence that came before storms. Put me on speaker, Marcus Williams said. Jasmine did. This is Marcus Williams. To whom am I speaking? Holloway stepped forward, that captain's authority still intact, still certain. This is Captain Derek Holloway. I'm in command of this aircraft, and I've made a determination that there are irregularities with these passengers' tickets. They're being removed for verification. What irregularities specifically? That's confidential airline business, sir. I don't have to explain my security decisions to you. You're about to, Marcus said. His voice was calm, measured. The same voice Jasmine used when the world showed its teeth. But first, I need to speak with your chief of security. Transfer me to Ground Operations Command, Gate C-47. I don't take orders from. Officer Martinez, I can see your badge in the video my daughter is uploading in real time. Transfer this call to your supervisor. Now. Martinez looked at his radio, looked at Holloway, looked at the phone in Jasmine's hand where dozens of witnesses could now see the interaction being live-streamed to a private server. He made the call. 90 seconds later, Ground Operations Supervisor Linda Chen was on the line. This is Chen. Who am I speaking with? Marcus Williams, board member of Sky Elite Airways. Shareholder number A7734. I need you to verify 2 tickets on Flight 447, first class, seats 2A and 2B. The silence that followed lasted maybe 5 seconds. 5 seconds where Linda Chen pulled up the reservation. 5 seconds where she saw the account name, Williams Family Trust. 5 seconds where she saw the credit card on file, the one belonging to Marcus Williams, board member, 23% shareholder, the man who'd saved the airline from bankruptcy 18 months ago. 5 seconds where she realized that every person in that first-class cabin had just watched her captain humiliate the daughter and mother of the man who could fire him with a single phone call. Mr. Williams, her voice had changed, professional to terrified in a heartbeat. I'm so sorry. There's been a terrible misunderstanding. Your tickets are absolutely valid, confirmed and paid. First class 2A and 2B, there's no issue whatsoever. Then why, Marcus said, his voice still quiet, still measured, is my 16-year-old daughter being threatened with arrest? Chen's response was immediate. Captain Holloway, this is Ground Operations Supervisor Chen. Stand down immediately. The passengers are verified. Do not remove them from the aircraft. Holloway's face had gone pale, not quite understanding yet but beginning to. But Captain Holloway, Marcus's voice cut through. Let me be very clear about what happens next. You've accused my daughter and my mother of ticket fraud. You've called security to remove them from seats they paid for. You've threatened them with arrest and airline bans. You've done all of this in front of dozens of witnesses who are currently uploading videos to social media. Do you understand the situation you're in? Holloway understood. Too late, he understood. Mr. Williams, I apologize. I didn't realize. You didn't realize what? That they were my family, so if they weren't, this would be acceptable. No answer. You didn't realize that I own 23% of this airline. So if I was just a regular passenger, humiliating a grandmother and her teenage granddaughter would be fine. No answer. You didn't realize that you've spent the last 15 minutes creating a documented case of racial profiling that's going to cost this airline millions in PR damage and legal fees. It wasn't about race, Holloway said, his voice desperate now. I just thought. You thought what? That 2 black women couldn't afford first class, that our tickets had to be fraudulent, that we didn't belong in the front of your plane. The cabin was tomb silent. Even the passengers in economy had stopped moving. The businessman's phone was still up, capturing every word. Monica Chen had disappeared into the galley. Martinez and Peterson stood frozen, recognizing too late that they'd been complicit in something that was about to destroy careers. Linda, Marcus said, his voice shifting into something harder, I want Captain Holloway removed from this flight immediately. I want him suspended pending a full investigation. And I want every passenger on this aircraft to receive written confirmation that Sky Elite Airways does not tolerate discrimination of any kind. Yes, sir, immediately. I want the names of every employee who participated in this incident, the flight attendant who supported the captain's decision, the security officers who threatened my family with arrest, everyone. I'll have that within the hour. You'll have it within 20 minutes, or you'll be joining them. Linda Chen understood power. She'd worked for airlines for 30 years. She'd seen passengers make threats and file complaints and demand to speak to supervisors. This was different. This was a board member who could walk into Monday's executive session and have her terminated before lunch. 18 minutes, she said. I'll have the full incident report in 18 minutes. Good, now patch me through to James Rutherford, the CEO of Sky Elite Airways, the man who reported to the board of directors, the board that Marcus Williams effectively controlled. Mr. Williams, it's Friday evening. Mr. Rutherford is. I don't care if he's having dinner with the Pope. Patch me through. 3 minutes later, James Rutherford was on the line, pulled from a charity gala at the Art Institute where he'd been schmoozing donors who couldn't match what Marcus had invested in his airline. Marcus. His voice had the forced casualness of a man trying to pretend this was a social call. I just heard there was an incident with your family. I want you to know we're handling it immediately. Captain Holloway has been removed from the flight and I want him fired, James, not suspended, fired. Marcus, we have procedures for. Your procedures just allowed a captain with 23 years of experience to profile my daughter on one of your aircraft. Your procedures allowed security to threaten my 72-year-old mother with handcuffs. Your procedures created a situation where my family was humiliated in front of a cabin full of passengers who are currently posting videos that have already been viewed 40,000 times and counting. Rutherford could hear the truth in that number. In 2025, social media moved faster than corporate crisis management. By the time Skyelite's PR team crafted a response, the videos would have millions of views. The hashtag SkyEliteShame was probably already trending. What do you want? Rutherford asked. I want what I've been telling this board we needed for the last year. Mandatory anti-bias training for all customer-facing employees. Independent review of passenger complaint patterns to identify discrimination. A passenger bill of rights posted in every gate area and on every aircraft. Quarterly diversity audits of hearing and promotion practices. And I want it implemented within 30 days. Marcus, that's going to cost less than the lawsuit my lawyers are drafting right now. Less than the boycott that civil rights groups are going to organize when those videos go viral. Less than the Department of Transportation investigation that I'm personally going to request Monday morning. Silence. You've been blocking these reforms for a year, Marcus continued. Every board meeting you tell me the timing isn't right, the costs are too high, the operations team needs more time to prepare. Well, time's up, James. You just ran out of excuses. If I agree to this, you'll drop the lawsuit. If you agree to this and implement it properly, I'll consider not requesting your resignation at the next board meeting. But Derek Holloway, he's done. Today. And every employee who supported him in that cabin gets retraining at minimum, termination if the investigation shows they've done this before. Done. I want it in writing. Email to my personal attorney within 2 hours. You'll have it in 90 minutes. Marcus hung up. The cabin was still silent. Holloway had been escorted off the aircraft 10 minutes ago, replaced by Captain Sarah Martinez. Ironically, a Latina woman who'd been passed over for the Chicago-Miami route 3 times despite superior performance reviews. The investigation would later reveal that Holloway had specifically requested the route because it was prestigious, and had objected to Martinez's assignment because she didn't fit the image he wanted for his cabin. Monica Chen had been removed from the flight as well, replaced by a flight attendant who'd apologized 6 times in 3 minutes, and offered Jasmine and Dorothy everything from champagne to meal vouchers to a personal letter from the CEO. Dorothy had accepted only water. The security officers remained, standing awkwardly near the gate, waiting for their supervisors to arrive and begin the investigation that would ultimately result in Peterson being fired and Martinez being demoted to baggage screening. The flight took off 45 minutes late. Captain Martinez made an announcement before departure. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the delay. This evening, you witnessed an incident that should never have occurred on any flight, on any airline, anywhere. SkyElite Airways is committed to ensuring that every passenger is treated with dignity and respect, regardless of race, age, or any other characteristic. The employees involved in tonight's incident have been removed from duty, and we are conducting a full investigation. If any of you wish to provide statements or submit videos of what you witnessed, please see our crew, and we'll ensure your information reaches our executive team. Thank you for your patience. In seat 2A, Dorothy held Jasmine's hand. "Grandma," Jasmine said quietly, "did you know this would happen?" "Baby, I knew the minute that captain looked at us that he decided we didn't belong. I've seen that look 1,000 times. Your grandfather saw it. Your great-grandparents saw it. What I didn't know was that this time we had the power to do something about it. Dad's going to change the whole airline. Your dad's going to try, but real change takes more than one policy. It takes people deciding to see each other as human beings, not threats or problems or outsiders." Dorothy squeezed her granddaughter's hand. "Still, it's a start. Better than I had at 16. The businessman in the Tom Ford suit approached their seats. "Excuse me, I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. I should have said something when it was happening. I filmed it and I thought that was enough, but it wasn't. I should have spoken up." Jasmine looked at him. "You can speak up now, post the video, tag Sky Elite, make sure people know this happened, make sure they know it's not okay." He nodded. "I will, I promise." He kept that promise. His video, posted to Twitter at 8:47 p.m. that evening, received 2.3 million views in the first 12 hours. The hashtag SkyEliteShame trended nationally by midnight. By Sunday morning, major news outlets were covering the story. By Monday, civil rights organizations were demanding congressional hearings on airline discrimination. By Tuesday, Sky Elite stock had dropped 7%. By Wednesday, James Rutherford announced the comprehensive reforms Marcus had demanded, along with a $5 million donation to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. By Thursday, Derek Holloway had lawyered up and was giving interviews claiming he'd been unfairly targeted for following proper security procedures. The videos of him calling Jasmine "little girl" and "sweetheart" while threatening her with arrest played on loop during those interviews. His lawyer eventually advised him to stop talking. By Friday, exactly 1 week after the incident, Sky Elite Airways announced a new position: Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer, reporting directly to the CEO, with authority to audit any department and recommend terminations for discriminatory behavior. The position was offered to Dorothy Williams. She accepted. 3 months later, Jasmine and Dorothy boarded Flight 447 again. Same route, Chicago to Miami, first class, seats 2A and 2B. Captain Sarah Martinez greeted them personally at the aircraft door. "Ms. Williams, Mrs. Williams, welcome aboard. It's an honor to have you flying with us today." The flight attendant, a young black woman named Trinity Jackson who'd been hired as part of Sky Elite's diversity push, brought them water before they asked, "If you need anything at all during the flight, please let me know." The businessman in the Tom Ford suit was there too. Seat 1A, he nodded to them as they passed. He'd become something of an accidental activist after his video went viral, using his platform to call out discrimination when he saw it, putting his body and his privilege on the line in ways he never had before. Not quite redemption, but progress. As the plane pushed back from the gate, Jasmine looked at her grandmother. "How does it feel?" "Different," Dorothy said. "Better. But baby, understand something. This shouldn't feel special. This should be normal. The fact that we're surprised when we're treated with basic dignity tells you everything you need to know about how far we still have to go." "But we're going." "We're going," Dorothy smiled. "Your father saw to that." The reforms Marcus had demanded weren't perfect. Some employees resented the training. Some passengers complained about the new complaint process, claiming it was too sensitive. Some board members grumbled about the costs. But within 6 months, passenger complaints about discrimination had dropped by 64%. Employee reports of witnessing discrimination had increased by 89%, not because it was happening more, but because people finally felt safe reporting it. And Sky Elite's reputation, initially damaged by the viral videos, had rebounded as they became known as the airline that had actually changed after being called out. 3 flight attendants had been fired for discriminatory behavior caught, by the new complaint system. 17 employees had been promoted through the new diversity hearing initiative. 437 passengers had received apologies and compensation for incidents that previous procedures would have buried. And Derek Holloway, he'd filed a wrongful termination lawsuit claiming he'd been scapegoated. The lawsuit was dismissed when his attorney deposed 6 other passengers from that flight who testified about his behavior, 3 former flight attendants who reported similar incidents they'd witnessed, and 2 pilots who admitted Holloway had routinely profiled passengers, but they'd been too uncomfortable to report it. His airline career was over. His reputation was destroyed. His LinkedIn profile, once proudly listing his 23 years of experience and 3 Captain's Excellence Award nominations, had been deleted. He'd learned the hard way what Jasmine and Dorothy had always known, that dignity isn't given by people who think they have power over you. It's claimed by people who know their own worth, regardless of who tries to diminish it. As Flight 447 reached cruising altitude, and the Miami coastline sparkled in the distance 3 hours later, Trinity brought them warm chocolate chip cookies fresh from the galley, a first-class amenity that used to be reserved for the right kind of passengers. "Mrs. Williams," Trinity said quietly, "I just want you to know, I got this job because of what happened to you. My mom showed me the videos. She told me, if Mrs. Williams can fight for dignity at 72, you can fight for this opportunity. So thank you." Dorothy took the young woman's hand. "Baby, don't thank me for fighting battles I shouldn't have had to fight. Thank me by making sure the next generation doesn't have to fight them at all." Trinity smiled. "That's what the training says. Your words right." "My words, your future." After Trinity returned to the galley, Jasmine turned to her grandmother. "Do you think he regrets it, Holloway?" "I think he regrets getting caught. I don't think he regrets what he believed about us." Dorothy looked out the window at the clouds below, the same clouds she'd watched from airplane windows for 72 years, in seats that used to be forbidden to her, on airlines that used to refuse her service, in a country that used to consider her 3/5 of a person. "But here's what I know. His regret doesn't matter. What matters is that next time, the captain who thinks like him will remember what happened. The flight attendant who thinks like him will pause. The security officer who thinks like him will question. And maybe, just maybe, the 16-year-old girl in the hoodie will get on the plane, sit in her seat, and fly to Miami without anyone deciding she doesn't belong there. That's the world Dad's building. That's the world we're all building, baby, one flight at a time." The plane descended through silver clouds into Miami sunshine, and Jasmine Williams, 16 years old, Northwestern bound, daughter of power, granddaughter of revolution, thought about the difference between being allowed to exist in a space and knowing you belong there. She belonged there. She'd always belonged there. The world had just needed to catch up. What would you have done if you witnessed this happening on your flight? Would you have spoken up in the moment, or would you have stayed silent and recorded? What do you think Derek Holloway was really afraid of when he saw Jasmine and Dorothy in first class? Let us know in the comments. And if stories like this matter to you, stories about real change, not just revenge, hit that subscribe button. These stories don't tell themselves, and they definitely don't get the attention they deserve without people like you sharing them. Drop a like if you believe every passenger deserves dignity, regardless of what they look like or where they're sitting. Next time, hotel manager evicts homeless vet from lobby, doesn't know he owns the building. You won't believe what happens when a decorated Marine colonel returns to the hotel he secretly bought to help veterans, only to be thrown out by the same manager who refused him a room 3 years earlier.